Listen to me, many of you right now, life's got you up against the rope, and you got to do me a favor. Like, you can't give up. You can't give in. Pain is temporary. Pain is your friend. Pain is going to take you to the next level. When you going through pain, I know what you're feeling. I know exactly, because I've been there. I've done that. But you got to work through it. And the reason why most of you are not successful is because every single time stuff not going your way, you give up, you quit, you let go, and people feel weakness. They feel it. You can feel when somebody's not committed.
It's hard to defend yourself when the murmuring of the voice of accusation is stronger on the inside than the voice of all the critics on the outside. Guilt is not just about what others are saying about you. It is what you are saying about yourself.
Who is renting space in your mind? Who are you giving your thought life access to? I mean, why in the world would we be talking about what we might be thinking about? Because nobody really realizes this, but the mind is the battleground. You know, whatever you think about in abundance is most likely what you're going to see in your life. And there are all types of things battling for your thoughts. Because as a man thinketh, then in his heart so is he. The progression is affect your thinking first and then get it in your heart and then you become that. And I'll start it off with your thinking.
It is the condemnation that comes upon you. It is the struggle that lives down inside of you that you say, what was I thinking? Have you ever looked back at something and you just wonder, what was I on to do that? What happened? Did somebody put something in my coke? What happened that I went that far? See, this one of the things that we do with guilt, because it is such a heavy burden to carry. It's a heavy burden because it can only exist in places where you care. So it becomes a heavy burden to carry. So what we do is we change the narrative of what happened to make the memory more palatable. We block out the parts we are ashamed of. And we remember how people responded to us without remembering how we elicited or initiated the response. Selective amnesia. And so this story that we tell ourselves about what happened causes a certain toxicity to the soul that stops us from getting what God would give us. Because God will only fall on truth. And you have told yourself a lie so long that you can't be delivered because you can't admit the truth.
You're in fear. Well, what you're thinking about. You're angry. Then what you're thinking about. You're depressed. Well, what you're thinking about. Peace or worry can be a result of what you've been thinking about, what you've been giving your attention to, what you've been considering.
You are what you think. So you start the day off as this grateful creature, this grateful soul, this grateful person. You start your day off as grateful. And it just spirals throughout your day, and it puts you in a great mood. Try it.
I truly believe that thoughts are the greatest vehicle to change, power, and success in the world. Everything begins with thoughts.
It's time for us to move. So get your joy, get your smile, and pack your bags, because we're leaving depression. We're leaving the fear. We're leaving sadness and the questions, and we're stepping into the fullness of who we were called to be.
What happened earlier this week? And it only took 15 minutes, but you can't get it out of your thought life, and it's shaping you. It's messing up your access to wisdom, and it's hindering your happiness and your joy, and you can't live the life that God wants you to live because you're occupied with the last thing that you've been thinking about, and it's become abundant in your mindset. And your mindset determines really where you're going to go. And you got to be careful, and it's a real thin line between what you're going through emotionally and what's happening spiritually. And sometimes you're thinking something wrong between you and God, and it's just an emotional mindset that's been created by how much attention you've given the thing. You're still making progress, but you might not feel like it because you've given attention to that other thing. You still heal, but you might not feel like it because you've given too much attention to the negative part of it.
The one way to coach your mind from depression is with gratitude. Just start writing down everything you have to be grateful for. Whatever it is. Your health, you can walk, you have a car, may not be the one you want. I ate today. I have a place to live. I got a friend that I can call and share my troubles with. And just be real detailed with it. You would be stunned how long you'll be writing. Now, let me tell you what happens. Gratitude erases all negativity because there's no room now for negativity. It's not a magic trick. Joy and depression cannot reside in the same space. Those two things cannot exist at the same time.
Say thank you for grace. Thank you for mercy. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for parents. Thank you for wisdom. Thank you for kindness. Thank you for humility. Thank you for peace. Say thank you in advance for what's already yours. True desire in the heart for anything good is God's proof to you to indicate that it's yours already.
One of the great things about giving is that as you give, you're going to receive. What we want to do is keep the flow going. If anybody gets the bucket of love and stops and holds it there, all of us suffer. They've short-circuited the flow. They've stopped what was going on, the energy that was going around. See, you are part of an equation, and you are needed. Part of why we should begin to look at how we give up our lives is that we got to begin to see what is it that I'm supposed to do? What is my life work? And then give ourselves to that. Because as we do that, ladies and gentlemen, I guarantee you, as you begin to take on this new era that we're in, if you decide that I'm going to begin to start living life generously, I'm going to start giving more of myself, I'm going to start putting out more, contributing more to life, here's what's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. I guarantee you that life will take on a whole new meaning for you. I guarantee you that as you begin to give more of yourself in your work, give more of yourself in your marriage, give more of yourself in your relationships with your families and friends, give more of yourself to your talent, to your vocation, to your job or your business, as you begin to set high standards for giving that which you have been given to share in the universe, I guarantee you that life takes on a whole new dimension.
Life is worthwhile if you learn. You gotta know, you gotta have the information. Get the information while you're here, right? There's nothing worse than being stupid. So jot this down now, as I used in my notes. What you don't know will hurt you. Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is tragedy. Ignorance is illness. Ignorance is devastation. Ignorance is going broke. Ignorance creates a poor life. So you got to know, you got to have the information. Number one, learn from your personal experience. One way to learn to do it right is first mess it up and do it wrong. That doesn't mean it's the end of your life, but just, clean up the mess, now do it right. From a negative experience, sometimes we learn to do the positive things that saves our life and makes us successful. They say, if you survive your first heart attack, you may now live to be a very old person. Why is that? That first heart attack was a wake-up call. And then maybe the doctor said, another one of these and you're history. And you say, wow. And you make it for the health food store. and you start reading every book you can read on health and nutrition, and you start doing the push-ups, and you start jogging on the beach and doing all the stuff. And all of that change now could very well help you to live a long, long life, having been alerted in an alarm system that serves you well. So learn from your negative as well as your positive experiences. Here's the next, learn from other people's experiences. That's how you get smarter in a shorter period of time. Somebody that's been through it for 5 years and they wrote a book, and the book, if you read it, could save you 5 years, cost $30. You can't miss that kind of education. Best to get the information before. Yes, we can recover. Yes, we can come back, from the grave, practically. Yes, we can come back from bankruptcy and disaster and poor health. But wow, if we had the information up front that would save us some of those years of disaster, how much better that would be. So learn from other people's experiences, both negative and positive. If a guy's messed up his life for 40 years, you just have to say, John, would you spend a day with me? And I'll bring my notebook and take good notes. Good-looking guy like you, beautiful family, every reason to do well, and you threw it all away. Teach me for a day how you messed it all up. And you just take good notes so that the same thing doesn't happen to you. So learn from your experience, learn from other people's experiences. If you learn, life is worthwhile. Here's the second if. If you try, you gotta now try something from what you've learned. We've talked about that now earlier. Take action. You never know. My father said you never know until you try. Giving speeches and doing talks. Age 25, I stand up to give my first little training. My mind sat back down. I open my mouth and nothing comes out. My knees are knocking like this. The sweat is pouring. It's called terror, in case you haven't tried it, right? But I got through it somehow. It was so bad, if I hadn't have been doing the class, I'd have gone home, right? It was bad, but I got through it. And then I did it again. I didn't know if I should even try again. But sure enough, I had the kind of mentor and the kind of teacher who said, hey, that's nothing. What if you go up to bat and you strike out? Does that mean it's over? I say, no, it's not over. It's just over for one time up at bat. And then another time and another time. Pretty soon you connect. And pretty soon you get good enough to do well. And then pretty soon you get good enough to win the game. And then pretty soon you get good enough to take home the trophy. So you just keep trying. The third if that makes life worthwhile is if you stay. You've got to hang in there. Some people plant in the spring and leave in the summer. When it gets a little hot and a little uncomfortable, and it looks like the weeds are winning, and it looks like the bugs are having a feast, and you have a tendency to say, hey, I've had it with this. But the key is, if you want the harvest in the fall at harvest time, you've got to stay through the summer. Even if the harvest doesn't turn out to be good, you just see it through and then use that experience to do better planting in the spring come the next turnaround of seasons. So stay in there. If you're going to play the game, you got to stay until it's over. What if you were on the team and you guys were behind and you said, hey, we're so far behind, we're out of here. And you all walked off the court, right? We would run you out of town, probably. We wouldn't own you as the home team. Say, I'm behind, so I'm out of here. No, you stay until what? It's over. We're not talking about a lifetime now. We're just talking about this game. If you're in it, stay till it's over. If you sign up for the game, you don't have to go to every game. But the one you sign up, you stay, right? You don't have to do everything every time, but when you start it, see it through. See the seasons through. Then you don't have to plant anymore if you don't want to. But when you do sign up, go the distance. Life is worthwhile if you stay. Hang in there. Next, life is worthwhile if you care. And for my little talk for the service clubs, here's how I wound it up. If you care at all, you'll get some results. If you care enough, you can get extraordinary results. If you just care at all, you get some. But if you really cultivate your caring character and care enough, you can have such extraordinary returns from productivity, activity, things you're doing underway. Have something good to say. Here's the next one. Now we must learn to say it well. Once you've got something, now you can't mumble, right? It's got to be clear, or no matter how good the message is that you've got to deliver, how good the instructions, how good the ideas, no matter how good they are, if you don't deliver them well, now the power is lost and the opportunity is lost. So number one is to have something good to say, and number two is to say it well. Here's what'll help you to say it well. Make this list. Number one, sincerity. If a message is delivered with sincerity, see, that makes all the difference. If the speaker is sincere, if the father is sincere, if the mother is sincere, see, that's captivating for the children. If the friend is sincere, even covering a delicate subject for us of some changes we probably should make, if they're sincere, see, we will give them room. Perhaps to get on our case if we know they're sincere, not just trying to criticize for criticizing's sake. If your sincerity, I'm telling you, that wins the day. Here's what can really be accomplished. Hopefully, like this weekend here, someone sincerely willing to speak and someone sincerely willing to listen. Now, in terms of lecture, book, seminar, and all the rest, we must come to this conclusion, because it's a wise conclusion, that sincerity is not a test of truth. In your study and evaluating everything, just make sure you have that in the back of your mind. Sincerity is not a test of truth. We must not make the mistake of saying, he must be right, he's so sincere. See, that might be a mistake. Why is that? Here's why. It's possible to be sincerely wrong. So sincerity is not a test of truth. Here's the only test of truth. Truth. Truth is the only test of truth, not sincerity. We hope someone will be both truthful and sincere, but we don't mistake sincerity for truth. Here's next. Repetition. To get better at something, you just have to go do it. Go do it. Accept every opportunity to go make a little talk if that's going to be your business. Get better at talking to your kids. Come up with more illustrations. Come up with more ideas. Read an extra book. How to communicate with teenagers. So you'll have something a little better to say. And then just practice it. Get good at it. Get better at it. Right? I was clumsy when I started. Now the words flow a little easier. I still struggle with the language, trying to make it clear, but it's easier now. Repetition has helped me to do that. Here's what's next. In good communication, saying it well, brevity. Right? Don't take too long to say it if you can say it in shorter sentences and shorter time. One way to learn brevity is to talk to kids. You talk to kids for 30 seconds and they say, how long is this gonna take? It's already too long, right? 30 seconds. I mean, they got games to play and things to do. They can't hang around for, an hour's discourse. So talk to kids. It helps you to make it more brief. The storyteller tells us Jesus wandered around the countryside in putting his 12 together. And as he wandered around the countryside, every once in a while he would say, you follow me. See, that's short. Why could he be so brief and so short with that simple appeal? Jot this down now. Probably for who he was, not just for what he said, but for who he was. There was something about him when he said, you follow me. See, probably his reputation, probably his manner, probably with how he said it, irresistible. So here's what's powerful, and you can talk less and even be more effective in this personal development area. The stronger you become and the wiser you become, the more caring you become, it shows in your language and your manner. The texture of your communication changes and reaches where it couldn't reach before. It strikes the heart where it didn't strike before. That's the key here. Next, style. Now you've got to develop your own style. You can be a student of style. There's about a dozen people that I know over the years that if you knew those dozen, you'd say, hey, a little bit of each of them appears in Jim Rohn's style, which is probably true. Not copying any one person, but I like the way the person said it this way. I like the person's gestures, because I used to be a little too stiff. without, gestures. So make this note, it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. Style, sincerity, the way you present it, heart, soul, from deep inside, commitment, dedication, wrapped up in your language so that now when you present it, hey, it becomes incredibly effective. Next is vocabulary. The better your vocabulary, the better you can share ideas that are meaningful, find words now to use that you couldn't use before. If you were very limited in your ability to comprehend because you had such a small vocabulary, that no matter what someone said, it would still be confusing. No matter what they said, it still might not make sense. They said it clear, but you couldn't see it. And sometimes that's because the vocabulary is so limited that it doesn't have the ability to register the scene on the screen of your consciousness. What if you could only see the world through this little tiny hole? You would be inclined to say, the world is like this. And all of us would say, no, the world is like this. This person would say, no, it's like this. How come they keep insisting the world is like this? Because that's all they can see. They're limited in the scope of their ability to widen their perception about life and what's going on and what's happening simply because they don't have the vocabulary to understand. So they started working on vocabulary, and immediately behavior started to change. Being able to see, being able to comprehend. Oh, now I see. Oh, now I understand the reason why. And as your education increases, that should be one of the major purposes for education, is to help you see things you couldn't see before, comprehend what you couldn't comprehend before, see a future you couldn't see before, see beyond tomorrow you couldn't see before. See, that's a gift. Vocabulary. So keep working on your vocabulary. Now here's another reason. Only with our present vocabulary can we express what's going on in our head, what's going on in our heart. You can't express beyond your present vocabulary. What if it's very limited? Then your ability to express what you think, express how you feel, is limited. So by a very restricted vocabulary, if you can't understand very well, and if you can't express very well, then your world becomes very, very small. So jot this down. Make one of the books a very important book, and that is the dictionary. A word you don't understand, come to a word you don't understand, you look it up. Say, what is this word? Words are like lights. Now make this note now, especially the English language. There's nothing richer than the English language because there's so many ways to say it in English. In some languages, there's only one way to say it. In English, there's another way to say it, and another way to say it, and another way to say it. When I travel to all these countries and have to have translators, it gets to be difficult sometimes. Expressing something that makes sense in English because we have several ways to say it, but in their language, there's only a couple of ways to say it. So the translator has a tough job. So you have to learn how to present, how to do the stuff. But the gift of language is so powerful, it's worth the exercise. It's worth the effort. Vocabulary, brevity, style, repetition, sincerity, saying it well. Here's another one on saying it well. Don't fail to say it. You need the practice. Practice everywhere. If you're going to give someone a gift and send a little card, practice making this little card something they'll keep and remember for the rest of their lives. Not ordinary, extraordinary. Not like everyone else, different than everyone else. It's the practice of using your gift of saying things another way until a light turns on, another way that expresses something heartfelt that the standard ordinary language wouldn't express, couldn't reach, couldn't paint these mental pictures. It's okay to give flowers, but don't let flowers do all your talking. Flowers have a limited vocabulary. Guess what flowers say? You remembered. That's about all they say. Flowers don't say, nobody in this world affects me like you do. Love. See, flowers talk, but they don't say that. That you got to put in the little card. Nobody in this world affects me like you do. Love, and then you sign it. And see, long after the flowers are gone, somebody's going to keep the words. The words are more powerful than the flowers. So don't let flowers do all your talking. See if you can't choose the words that are meaningful. words that are unique. And the more you do this, practicing every little occasion to say something well, whether it's a little talk to the family gathering, or whether it's training, or whether it's inspiring, or a little class on Sunday morning, whatever it is, keep improving, find a new way to say it, a new illustration, a new story. You'll get better. The gift will belong to you, and the effect could be electrifying. Don't fail to say it. Here's an expression we've heard. Words are no substitute for action. That's true. Let me give you another one. Action is no substitute for words. It's okay to do, but you've also got to say. Express it, as clumsy as it might be to start. Start a better program of better communication, saying it better. Here's the next one now that's really challenging, but it really works, and that is read your audience. Whether it's an audience of a child or an audience of a training class, or whether you're a minister and you preach, here's what you've got to do. Say something well, but then read the effect you're having. If you're talking to a child, should you really pour it on, or should you hesitate? Should you save this for another time or do it now? Some of that you've got to pick up by reading the child. Read what's happening to your audience of 1 or 1,000. This is a challenge, but it'll help you in framing better the words you need to say and the style you need to use. Now, in reading, there's 3 things. Jot these down. 3 things in reading your audience. First, you read what you see. Salespeople soon learn. If the customer's got his arms folded and his chin tucked down and he's frowning, this one ain't gonna be easy. Right, this one's gonna take all my skill to get his arms unfolded, make him a little more comfortable, get that frown off of his face. What can I do? I got to reach in my bag for some good stuff, right? To see if I can't sort of change the situation. And what causes us now to do those amendments in our presentation? It's reading someone's body language, right? What's happening? Here's the next one. You've got to read what you hear. If it's a two-way conversation, you got to listen as well as talk. Mama said 2 ears, 1 mouth. Listen twice as much as you talk, at least, maybe more. Listen so that you can now know how to proceed, especially if you're talking to a child. You listen so that you know how to proceed. And by listening, you pick that up. Here's the next one. You got to pick up the emotional signals, how you feel, whether you're coming on too strong, whether you should be stronger or easier this time. That's an art in reading. First, what you see. Second, what you hear. Third, read how you feel. Now, this is where women really have it made, being able to feel, sense. And they pick it up. Men can learn better on how to pick up these emotional signals, but women seem to have it. Because there's no use going on and on. If the signal should have told you, wow, this is not the time. This is too strong. Picking up not only what you see and what you hear, but what you feel. Now, here's the last one. To achieve good communication, something good to say, saying it well, reading your audience. Here's the last one. Intensity. Intensity is the emotional part of communication. Communication is both words and emotion. Here's what's really powerful. Words loaded with emotion. See, that's what's unbelievably powerful. It can move nations. It can help people change directions. It can establish an ideology, for good or for bad. Look at Hitler and his ability to preach. Look at Stalin, his ability to preach. Lenin, as wrong as they were, they believed it with all of their heart. Disastrous results, but they put everything they had into it. The emotional content was unbelievable, powerful. Yes, in an evil direction, but it can also be used for a good direction. This intensity, strength, power, emotion. Now here's the craft, and conversation is a craft. Don't get lazy in learning this craft, because it'll serve you so well at home, it'll serve you so well in the marketplace, it'll serve you so well in your career and making your fortune. This craft of communication. Here's the combination. Well-chosen words mixed with measured emotion. Not only do the words have to be well chosen, the emotion has to be well measured.
If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts you hate, if you can meet triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will.
Humans don't want to die because deep in their hearts, they know that they have not finished what they were born to start. That's why they don't want to die. When a person have discovered their purpose and have fulfilled their destiny, they welcome death. Death never threatens a human who discovers their purpose. The Apostle Paul, for example, was not afraid to die. As a matter of fact, the Apostle Paul died willfully. He decided to die. Let me quote him. I quote, "I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. I have been poured out like a drink offering, and there's nothing left for me to do. I am now ready to be offered." Wow. He had this clear confidence about death. So please write these statements down, please. Very important. First, I want to talk to you about purpose and destiny. Write the two words down. And I want to focus on, in this first segment, the laws of personal success from a kingdom perspective. Let's talk about success for a minute. Proceed. Now, success is something that every human wants. Everybody wants to succeed.
There's all kinds of different ways to break. You can break physically, you can break mentally, you can break your heart, you can break your spirit, and none of those are fun, and all of those are gonna leave a mark. But the mark that they leave can be the mark of victory, or it can be the mark of defeat. Because every time you break, and in every way that you break, while it's a chance, it's definitely a chance for you to give up and for you to just to fall apart. But there's also opportunity. There's opportunity to get stronger and get smarter and get faster and get tougher and get more stable and get more resilient and get better. When you break, you have the opportunity to show the world, the whole world, what you are really made of. So if you break, if you break, the fight isn't over. In fact, if you break, the fight is just beginning. And as you crawl up and out of that dismal and wretched place, covered, and you're covered in blood and sweat and dirt and filth as you rise above what you were, and as you take the form of who you are supposed to be, you will see that in the very act of standing up, in the very act of fighting on, you will become and you will remain.
But for you to succeed in life, there are 5 questions you must answer. And every human being on earth is trying to answer these questions right now, including the person sitting in your chair right now. These 5 questions control the human race. These 5 questions motivate everything you do. These 5 questions are so powerful that they create everything in this planet that humans do. These 5 questions are the source of all of your problems. They are the source of all the crime in your city. They are the source of all of your broken homes and divorce. They are the source of all corruption. These 5 questions are the source of every problem a human faces is in these 5 questions. In other words, our attempt to find the answer to these 5 questions is the cause of all of our behavior. As a matter of fact, you came here tonight and you're watching this program live around the world because of these 5 questions. I have reduced all of human life to 5 questions. Write them down. Number 1, who am I? It's a tough question to answer. Most people have never asked nor answered that question because it's a frightening question. The average human never answers that question. Who am I? The second question that you must answer to become successful in life is, where am I from? Where am I from? Again, 99% of the world's population never answers that question. That question has nothing to do with your ethnicity. Where am I from? The third question every human must answer to become successful on this planet is, why am I here? Why was I conceived? Why was I born? And I am certain that most of you sitting here in this room still have not answered that question. Why am I here on this planet? The fourth question every human must answer to be successful is, what can I do? What can I do? That question has to do with, what am I capable of? Again, over 90% of the world's population haven't answered that question. And the last question every human is grappling with is the question, where am I going?
I need you to die on E. You heard what I said, die on E. E.T., what you talking about? Die on E. I ain't no car. Man, I remember when I was young, my first whip, I had a blue Escort. That's right, a blue Escort, right? And I'm gonna tell you something, man. My car broke down. I never forget the day it broke down. I had filled the car up, that's right, with gas. I had gotten an oil change. Listen to me, I had an oil change and the car was almost on full. And when that car died, I had about 40 bucks in that car. Are you hearing me? You heard what I said. Die on E. When you die, when life is over for you. Are you hearing me? I don't want you to have one idea left in you. I don't want one dream left in you. When you die, I want you to go for broke. Every CD that you were supposed to do, every book you were supposed to write, every degree you were supposed to get. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Everything you were supposed to accomplish. When you die, don't go to the grave with nothing. When you die, die on E. And what I mean is, I want you to give everything you got. I want you to, listen to me, full potential. I want you to get everything out your system. So that's number 1. You got, my boy Alex put it like this. The reason why you guys are going to separate yourself from everybody else if you die on E, because most people that are alive are living on neutral. They driving in neutral. They operating in neutral. So I want you to get out of neutral and put it in drive. I need you to transition from the I to the A. That's right, I said it. Transition from the I. And what's an I? The I is an idea. That's all it is. It's an idea. So I want us to do more A than I. That's right. I want us to live in the A and not the I. What do I mean by that? Some people, man, they got an idea and all you do is talk, talk, talk. Every time you get an idea, you pick up the phone, you call your homegirl, you three-way, you get on conference call, and you getting excited about your idea, all right? You telling your mama about it, your daddy about it, and there's more life in you when you talk about the idea than you put any action in it. Are you hearing me? So do me a huge favor. Write the idea down and then shut up. You heard what I said. Write the idea down and shut up. You ain't got to share your idea with 50 people. Write the idea down and boom, get to stepping, baby. Get to the action. Because listen to me very closely. Your success is not determined on just what you say. Now, I'm not disagreeing with you got to speak stuff into existence. I'm not disagreeing with that. But I'm telling you, you can't talk about it all the time. You got to be about it.
Anyone that wishes to have power over others, anyone that can do things to people and have no empathy for the consequences, is themselves in a tiny box of perception. what the Illuminati and what the manipulators have done, and they've done it brilliantly, I have to say, because they may not be wise, but they are clever on an intellectual level. Cleverness without wisdom is the most destructive force on earth. That's why we are in such a state that we're in. You know, it's very clever to know how to build an atomic bomb, but it's not wise to do so. There is a difference between cleverness and wisdom. But on an intellectual level, they're very clever. And what they've done is manipulate humanity through the suppression of knowledge and these other means into a smaller box than they're in. But we have the potential to get out of the box. Well, they have the potential too, but far less potential because they're so caught in this mentality that they're in of control. And what is control? Control is massive, massive insecurity. That's what these people are, the Illuminati and these reptilian entities and all the rest. They are consumed by insecurity and fear themselves. That's why they know how to manipulate fear and insecurity so well, because they're connected to it so powerfully. People who are insecure want to control everything because they're not secure enough within themselves just to go with the flow of life and see where it goes. Secure people don't need control over other people. Insecure people do. And I use this analogy a lot because it really kind of encapsulates it for me. Our natural state is not what we have been experiencing in known human history anyway. Our natural state is where we're going, and more people are opening up to. And I use this analogy like the natural state of a ball is floating on the top of the water, floating on the top of the tank or whatever. To keep it in an unnatural state, you have to push it down to the bottom of the water. You can't let it go. You have to constantly hold it there. And that's why, as I've been describing today, and I could describe a lot more, we have been subjected to multi-levels of suppression and manipulation from the things we eat, the electromagnetic fields we come into contact with, the way that we're manipulated through words, etc., and religion and belief systems. All those things are necessary to hold us in an unnatural state of being unconscious. And why are all those things necessary? Because we are amazing, infinite, eternal genius. And we've been held in this unnatural state. But, like I say, if you're going to hold the ball in the unnatural state, you've got to hold it there. Because the moment you let it go, woof, it's in its natural state, because that's where it will gravitate to immediately. And the moment we throw off the chains and the shackles of this manipulation and of this misunderstanding of who we are and where we are, then as we break those chains, those vibrational chains, we are going to become conscious by definition, because that's what we are. You know, people think, I've got to seek enlightenment. No. We are enlightened. That's our natural state.
The law of awareness says you must know yourself to grow yourself. James Russell Lowell, in your notes, no one can produce great things who is not thoroughly sincere in dealing with himself. What a powerful statement that is. You and I need to become aware of who we are, and we need to know what our passion is. We need to know what our purpose is. When people talk about themselves and trying to find themselves, I immediately talk to them about what is your passion, what is your purpose. Let me kind of walk you through this kind of quickly of how to figure this out, because this is so important in your awareness. The first question I would ask you about your passion is, do you like what you're doing now? Surprisingly, the majority of the people, when I ask them that question, say no. And this amazes me. I'll be just having a conversation. Hey, do you like your job? You know what? Most people say they don't. And sometimes they'll even look at me and say, well, you know, I don't really care for my job. What would you advise me to do? And then they don't like my advice, because when somebody tells me they don't like their job, I just immediately say, well, I'd quit. I have no idea. Now, please, maybe some of you can help me in the audience today. I have no idea why somebody would do something every day that they didn't like. This is beyond me. Why would a person go and do a job that they don't like and complain about it all day and call it life? And to be honest with you, I don't want to work beside him either. because it's bad enough for them to be miserable in their doing, but when they're miserable what they're doing, guess what they do to you? They make you miserable. Haven't you just been beside miserable before? You know what I'm saying? You kind of felt good, but by the end of the day, you felt bad. And you say, well, what did I do to feel bad? You sat with that person. You know what I'm saying? So when people say, well, I don't like my job, what kind of advice do you give me? This is an IQ test. Quit. Why would you, I'm still, it's beyond me. Why would you every day do something what is your passion? And yet I know people who literally spend their whole life, no wonder people look forward to retirement. They can hardly wait to get out. It's almost like prison. They're going to be free at last. The second question is, what would you like to do? Because there is a relationship between finding your passion and reaching your potential. That's a fact. What would you like to do? Let me just, since we're talking about personal growth, say that if you would have known me when I was in school, junior high and high school, I tell parents all the time, when parents are worried about their kids because their kids just seem to be goofing off, and they say, boy, my kids just don't seem to be buckling down. I always say, just relax, take a pill. Because if they would have seen me as a kid, as a parent, they would be greatly encouraged. Because when I went to school, it was nothing but a party. There was one wonderful thing about school was your friends. And I had a whole bunch of friends. And I didn't do studies. My study hall was going around visiting my friends. That was kind of like fellowship time for me. And I was playing ball and I was enjoying myself. And I didn't get good grades. And I just basically, I was smart enough to wing it and get through high school. If you just hang in and breathe, you get there. You know what I'm talking about. So it's not like a huge accomplishment. It's, can you just stick around long enough? They'll pass you. They kind of pass you up. You know what I mean? And my dad and I, we had these long talks. My dad and I have these long talks. He said, John, you just don't seem to be disciplined. You don't seem to be focused. You just want to play ball and be with your friends. And you're right. And I wasn't. When I went to college, it turned around immediately. Because when I went to college, I was going to get a do now and study for something I wanted to go do. And immediately I made the dean's list. Immediately I disciplined myself. Immediately I started studying. Wasn't really any problem. But can I tell you something? The reason I didn't do it in high school is because I wasn't getting what I wanted to get to go where I really wanted to go. In the moment, me being pragmatic, that I found that I got the subjects down and I could study, they were going to prepare me for the ministry. I got all excited, passionate, the whole process. So you got to ask yourself, what would you like to do? Because when you find what you'd like to do, that ignites your passion. And when your passion is ignited, that begins to increase your potential. That's when you start moving up the potential ladder.
The consciousness is not an object. You could never say, there it is. That's actually, Jesus said literally when they asked, when does the kingdom of heaven come, or where is it? Kingdom of the sky. You can never say, there it is, or it's over there. That's what he literally said. So you can't say the consciousness, this is the analogy, the sky is the consciousness. Not the only place where it's also used sometimes in Chinese, ancient Chinese spirituality, philosophy, Taoism, and so on. The heaven, the sky, the vastness of it. But it is intangible. It does not exist in the same way that consciousness does not exist. Because exist, that word means ex is from the Latin out. Ist to stand. It stands out. Something that exists stands out into this world. It projects itself into this dimension. But the sky does not exist because you can never find it. And the consciousness does not exist in the way that something out here exists. It is the ground for existence. It is the being before the being becomes something. So there is being and there is existence. The being, very different. It sounds almost like an obscure existentialist treatise, being and existence. But that is why people like Jesus use the sky as the closest he could get to explaining what the unconditioned consciousness is. And so when you look at the sky, the equivalent of the vast emptiness or spaciousness of the clear sky is your inner spaciousness or emptiness. And you can never say, it can never become an object for yourself in the same way as I see the table, or there I'm now aware of the consciousness. You can't be aware of the consciousness because the awareness is it. So there's no duality. You can't make it into an object. And that means when you are rooted in that dimension within yourself, that is very different from the form identity, the egoic identity. In the egoic identity, you have made yourself into an object of consciousness, starting with, as we mentioned the other day, the pool of water in which Narcissus saw himself, the ancient myth. And so that was the beginning of human consciousness forming an image of itself and mistaking the mental image for who you are.